The war room on Earth was quiet when the message arrived. Minho stood at the center console, his hands pressed flat against the cold metal surface. Around him, dozens of screens showed star maps, fleet positions, and data streams from across human space. He had been Earth's defense coordinator for 8 years, but nothing in his experience prepared him for what he was reading. The alien message was clear and simple: surrender in 30 days or be destroyed. The Veldran Empire had found humanity. Their scout ships had been watching human colonies for months, studying their weapons, counting their ships, measuring their strength. The report Minho held in his hands contained the Veldran assessment of humanity. It was not flattering. Primitive technology, limited fleet size, no significant threat. The words stung, but Minho had learned long ago that appearing weak could be an advantage. He looked up as Yuna entered the room. She was young for a ship captain, only 32, but she had proven herself time and again in the outer territories. Her stealth ship, the Silent Horizon, had mapped more unknown space than any other vessel in the human fleet. "They're coming," Yuna said. It was not a question. Minho nodded. "Their supreme commander is leading the invasion personally. Vrethkol. He's never lost a battle in 4,000 years. 4,000 years? Yuna raised an eyebrow. How old is this thing? Their species lives for millennia. Vrethkol has conquered 23 other races. He's considered a god among his people. Minho pulled up an image on the main screen. The creature that appeared was massive, easily 3 meters tall, with armor that seemed to be part of its body. Multiple arms ending in bladed appendages, eyes that glowed with an inner light. He's calling this a training exercise for his young warriors. Yuna studied the image carefully. He thinks we're weak. We are weak, Minho said. Compared to them, their ships are faster, their weapons are stronger, their armies are larger. On paper, we lose this war in a week. On paper. Yuna smiled slightly. Good thing we don't fight on paper. Across the city, in a laboratory deep underground, Jinwoo was already working. He was humanity's lead scientist on quantum defense systems, and right now he was looking at data that made no sense. The Veldran fleet was approaching, and his sensors were picking up energy readings that shouldn't be possible. "They're lying to us," he said to his assistant. "Or they're hiding something. These power signatures are off the scale." His assistant looked worried. "You think they're stronger than they're showing?" "I think they want us to surrender without a fight." Jinwoo pulled up another screen, showing the projected path of the Veldran fleet. "They're broadcasting their intentions, showing us their strength, making sure we know we can't win." "It's psychological warfare. Can we win?" the assistant asked quietly. Jinwoo was silent for a long moment. "We've survived worse odds. Humans are good at that." In orbit around Mars, Fleet Admiral Somin stood on the bridge of her flagship and watched the stars. Her fleet was the largest humanity had ever assembled, but she knew it was not enough. 200 ships against the Veldran armada of over 1,000. The math was simple and brutal. Her tactical officer approached. "Admiral, we've completed the evacuation of the outer colonies. All civilians are moving to the inner systems." "Good," Somin said. "What about our defensive positions?" "Ready. But Admiral, if we concentrate our forces, we might be able to hold them at—" "No," Somin interrupted. "We're not going to hold them anywhere. We're going to run." The officer looked confused. "Run? Lead them deeper into our territory. Make them chase us. Stretch their supply lines. Tire them out." Somin turned to face her crew. "The Veldran have been winning wars for thousands of years because every species they fight tries to match their strength. We're not going to do that. We're going to fight our way, not theirs." Back on Earth, Minho received another message. This one was different. It was a personal challenge from Supreme Commander Vrethkol himself. The alien leader was promising to personally lead the final assault on Earth. He wanted humanity to know that their end would come at the hands of the greatest warrior in the galaxy. Minho read the message 3 times. Then he smiled. "He's making a mistake," Yuna said, reading over his shoulder. "A big one," Minho agreed. "He thinks showing his personal power will make us afraid. But he's giving us something much more valuable, a target." "Exactly." Minho began typing orders. "If their supreme commander wants to be on the front lines, we'll arrange a special welcome for him." The next few days moved quickly. Human colonies in the outer systems reported the arrival of Veldran scout ships. Then came the main fleet, massive and overwhelming, moving through space like a tidal wave. 3 colonies fell in the first week. The Veldran were efficient and brutal. But they followed a pattern. They announced their arrival, gave the humans a chance to surrender, then attacked with overwhelming force. It was textbook warfare, and it had worked for the Veldren for thousands of years. But Minho was noticing something. The Veldren never adapted their tactics. They didn't need to. They always won using the same methods. Their doctrine was rigid, perfect, and completely predictable. They're not learning, he told Yuna during a late-night meeting. They're winning, so they see no reason to change. Then we need to teach them something new, Yuna said. In his laboratory, Jinwoo had made a breakthrough. The Veldren biology was different from humans in crucial ways. Their neural networks, the way their brains functioned, operated on specific electromagnetic frequencies that human technology could disrupt. It won't kill them, Jinwoo explained to Minho, but it will cause confusion, pain, disruption of their coordination. Imagine trying to fight while someone is screaming directly into your brain. Can we weaponize it? Minho asked. Already working on it. The Veldren kept coming. More colonies fell. The human fleet kept retreating, avoiding major engagements, hitting the Veldren supply lines and running before reinforcements could arrive. It was frustrating warfare designed to anger the enemy, to make them impatient, and it was working. Supreme Commander Vrethkol sent another message. He was tired of chasing cowards. He was accelerating his timeline. Earth would be attacked in 2 weeks instead of 4. Minho read the message and felt a cold satisfaction. The Supreme was doing exactly what humanity needed him to do. He was rushing forward, letting his anger guide him, thinking that his overwhelming power would be enough. The trap was being set. Now they just needed the Supreme to walk into it. The Battle of Titan Station changed everything. Hyunwoo had been a Marine commander for 12 years, and he had never seen combat like this. The Veldren warriors were fast, strong, and experienced. They moved through the corridors of the space station with confidence, believing they had already won. That confidence was their first mistake. Hold position, Hyunwoo whispered into his comm. His team of 40 Marines was hidden in the shadows, waiting. The Veldren squad passed by. 8 warriors in heavy armor, weapons ready. They were searching for humans to kill, expecting easy targets. Hyunwoo gave the signal. The Marines opened fire from 3 directions at once. Close range, brutal, efficient. The Veldren tried to respond, but they were not prepared for humans who fought this way. In 40 seconds, all 8 aliens were down. Move, Hyunwoo ordered. His team was already running, changing position before Veldren reinforcements could arrive. This was the new human doctrine. Hit hard, hit fast, and disappear. Never give the enemy a fair fight. Above Titan Station, Yuna's stealth ship drifted silent and invisible. Her crew was watching the battle unfold, gathering data, learning everything they could about how the Veldren fought. What Yuna saw surprised her. They're not watching their backs, her tactical officer observed. Look at their formation. Everything faces forward. Yuna nodded slowly. They've never had to worry about attacks from behind. Every species they conquered fought them face to face. That's insane, the officer said. Who doesn't protect their rear? Someone who's never lost, Yuna answered. She was already thinking about how to use this information. Get me a direct line to Admiral Soman. On her flagship, Soman received Yuna's report and immediately understood its implications. The Veldren were perfect soldiers trained for perfect battles. They had doctrine and discipline and overwhelming power, but they had no experience with chaos. They had never fought an enemy that refused to play by the rules. Change of plans, Samin announced to her fleet commanders. We're not just going to run anymore. We're going to make them chase us through hell. She began issuing orders. Human ships would hit Veldren supply convoys. Marines would board enemy vessels. Stealth teams would sabotage their staging areas. Nothing big enough to stop the invasion, but enough to slow it down, to frustrate it, to make the Veldren angry. Do-hyun was an intelligence officer who specialized in understanding alien psychology. He had been studying the Veldren for weeks now, watching their communications, analyzing their behavior. What he discovered was both encouraging and terrifying. They view war as a ritual, Do-hyun explained to Minho. It's not just about conquest. It's about proving their superiority. They want their enemies to acknowledge how powerful they are. So what happens when an enemy doesn't acknowledge that? Minho asked. They get angry, sloppy. They stop thinking strategically and start trying to prove a point. Do-hyun pulled up several messages from Supreme Commander Vrethkol. Look at these. He's not talking like a general anymore. He's talking like someone who's been personally insulted. Minho read the messages. The Supreme was calling humanity cowards. He was questioning their honor. He was promising to make an example of Earth that would be remembered for 10,000 years. He's taking this personally, Minho said. Exactly, and that's our opportunity. Jinwoo's team had been working around the clock on the electromagnetic weapon. They called it the Disruptor. It was not elegant technology. It was crude, built quickly from whatever materials they had available. But when they tested it on captured Veldran equipment, the results were spectacular. The alien technology simply stopped working. Shields failed. Weapons powered down. Communication systems screamed with interference. More importantly, the Veldran neural implants, the technology that let them coordinate perfectly in battle, became sources of pain and confusion. How many can we build? Minho asked. Thousands, Jinwoo replied. But they're one-use weapons. Once we fire them, the Veldran will know what we're doing. They'll adapt. Then we need to save them for the right moment. The Veldran fleet continued its advance. More human colonies were attacked. The fighting was fierce and humanity was losing ground every day. But something had changed. The Veldran victories were not as easy as they expected. Every battle cost them more ships, more warriors, more time. Supreme Commander Vrethakol was growing frustrated. The humans were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to surrender or die quickly. Instead, they kept fighting in ways that made no sense. They attacked supply lines instead of defending their worlds. They ran from fair battles but launched brutal ambushes. They boarded Veldran ships and fought hand-to-hand in corridors. It was undignified. It was dishonorable. It was effective. Hyunwoo led another boarding operation, this time on a Veldran cruiser. His Marines blasted through the hull and poured into the ship. The Veldran crew responded quickly, but they were not ready for what they found. Human Marines carrying simple ballistic weapons, shotguns, rifles, explosive charges. Nothing sophisticated, nothing that could match Veldran energy weapons in open combat. But inside a ship in close quarters with walls and corners and darkness, the humans were deadly. They've never fought like this, Hyunwoo realized during the battle. The Veldran were individually stronger, but they didn't know how to clear rooms. They didn't know urban warfare tactics. They bunched up. They exposed themselves. They fought like warriors instead of soldiers. The Marines tore through the ship. When they reached the command center, Hyunwoo's team planted charges and retreated. The cruiser exploded 30 seconds later. News of the boarding action spread quickly through the Veldran fleet. It created something the Empire had not felt in a very long time. Fear. The humans were not just fighting. They were coming onto Veldran ships and killing their crews. They were taking away the safety of armor and shields and superior firepower. Supreme Commander Vrethakol held a meeting with his senior officers. This ends now, he declared. I am tired of these primitives. We will crush them completely. I will personally lead the assault on their homeworld. His officers were surprised. The Supreme had not personally entered combat in over 200 years. There was no need. His fleets always won. Is that wise? One officer dared to ask. If something happened to you, nothing will happen to me, the Supreme interrupted. His voice was cold with certainty. I want these humans to see what they face. I want them to understand that their tricks and cowardice mean nothing against true power. When I stand on their capital and they surrender to me personally, the entire galaxy will know that the Veldran Empire cannot be challenged. The officer bowed and said nothing more. On Earth, Taeyang listened to the intercepted communication and smiled. He was a psychological warfare specialist, and he had been carefully crafting a campaign to manipulate the Supreme. Every message, every broadcast, every transmission was designed to push Vrethakol toward a specific decision. Make it personal. Make him angry. Make him want to prove himself, and it had worked. The Supreme was coming to Earth personally. He's going to bring his command dreadnought, Taeyang told Minho. He'll want it to be visible, symbolic. He'll position himself where he can watch the battle and broadcast his victory. Good, Minho said quietly. Then we know where he'll be. The final preparations began. Human forces withdrew toward Earth, abandoning the outer colonies without a fight. The Veldran fleet pursued, sensing final victory. Supreme Commander Vrethakol's massive dreadnought took position at the center of the formation, a symbol of inevitable conquest. In orbit around Earth, Admiral Summon watched the approaching fleet and felt the weight of what was coming. This was it! Everything depended on the next few days. All ships, she transmitted. Prepare for protocol tar pit. Wait for my signal. The trap was ready. Now they just needed to spring it. The Veldran fleet entered Earth's solar system like a storm. Over 1,000 ships, the largest invasion force the Empire had assembled in centuries. At their center, the Supreme Commander's dreadnought moved forward. 3 kilometers of advanced technology and weaponry. Frethkul stood on the command deck watching the small blue planet ahead. Insignificant, he said to his officers. All of this effort for such a small prize. His communication officer spoke carefully. Supreme, we are receiving a transmission from the humans. Let me hear it, Frethkul commanded. Taeyang's voice filled the command deck. The message was simple and direct. Supreme Commander Frethkul, we know of your reputation. 4,000 years of victories, 23 conquered species. You are called the Immortal, the Undefeated, the God of War. But we have a question. If you are so powerful, why do you hide behind your fleet? Why not face us yourself? Or are you afraid? The command deck went silent. Several officers held their breath. No one had ever spoken to the Supreme this way. Frethkul's eyes burned brighter. Afraid? He repeated quietly. Then he laughed, a sound like grinding metal. These primitives dare to question my courage? I will show them fear. I will show them what it means to challenge a god. He turned to his fleet commander. All ships are to maintain position. I will advance alone. Alone? The commander looked shocked.
Supreme, that would be... I have given my order, Frethkul interrupted.
The humans want to see me. They will see me. I will destroy their defenses personally. Let this be remembered. Let every species in the galaxy know what happens to those who mock the Veldran Empire. The command dreadnought began to move forward, pulling away from the fleet. It was unprecedented. It was tactically unsound. It was exactly what Minho had been hoping for. He took the bait, Yuna reported from her stealth ship. She was positioned near the asteroid belt, watching the Supreme's dreadnought approach. He's alone and coming fast. All units, Minho transmitted. Execute protocol tar pit. I repeat, execute now. The asteroid belt came alive. What the Veldran had thought were simple rocks were actually thousands of hidden weapon platforms. Hyunbi, the engineer who had designed them, had spent months preparing this trap. Simple human missiles modified with Jinwu's electromagnetic disruptors launched in waves. The Supreme's shields held at first. The dreadnought was powerful, designed to withstand entire fleet engagements. But the missiles kept coming, hundreds of them, then thousands. They were not trying to destroy the ship. They were trying to overwhelm it. On the command deck, Frethkul watched with growing anger as his shields flickered under the assault. Return fire, he ordered. Destroy these weapons. But for every platform they destroyed, 2 more appeared. The humans had been preparing this for weeks, building weapons from every available resource. They were cheap, simple, and effective. Then Jinwu activated the quantum field. The Supreme felt it immediately. Space around his ship began to twist in ways that should not be possible. Faster-than-light travel became impossible. Communications with his fleet were cut off. He was isolated, trapped in a bubble of distorted reality. What is this? Frethkul demanded. His officers were frantically working their consoles, trying to break free, trying to call for help. Nothing worked. That was when Yuna's stealth ships appeared. 7 vessels, small and fast, moving into position around the dreadnought. They were not there to attack. They were there to cage. Shields at 40%, an officer reported. Were taking sustained damage. Frethkul was not concerned. His ship could handle this. These were primitive weapons. He would break through this trap and make the humans pay for their arrogance. Then the boarding ships arrived. Hyunwoo led the assault. 20 transport ships, each carrying 100 Marines. 2,000 human soldiers, all volunteers, all knowing they might not survive. They slammed into the dreadnought's hull and began cutting their way inside. All teams, this is Commander Hyunwoo. You know the mission. We're not here to destroy the ship. We're here to capture it. And we're here to capture him. The Marines poured into the dreadnought. The fighting was immediate and brutal. Veldran warriors met them in the corridors, and the battle became chaos. The aliens were stronger, faster, with better weapons. But the humans had been training for this specific scenario for weeks. They knew the layout of Veldran ships. They knew where to hit, where to move, how to fight in confined spaces. Hyunwoo's team moved toward the command deck. They encountered heavy resistance. Veldran elite guards, the Supreme's personal warriors, defended every corridor. The fighting was savage. Marines fell, but they kept advancing. For every human that died, 2 more pushed forward. On the command deck, Vrethkol realized what was happening. The humans were not trying to destroy his ship. They were boarding it. They were coming for him personally. Impossible, he said. No species has ever boarded a Veldran command ship. Our defenses were designed to fight external threats, his tactical officer interrupted. Not internal ones. We've never needed to defend against boarding parties. Vrethkol understood then. Every species the Veldran had conquered had tried to match their power, to defeat them in open space combat. The humans were doing something different. They were turning the dreadnought into a battleground where Veldran advantages meant less. Seal the command deck, Vrethkol ordered. I will deal with these primitives myself. He armed himself with weapons that had not been used in centuries. Vrethkol had been a warrior before he became Supreme Commander. He had fought in thousands of battles, killed countless enemies. If the humans wanted to face him directly, he would show them why he was called immortal. Yunwu and his team reached the command deck. The doors were sealed, but they had brought cutting equipment. It took 20 minutes to breach the entrance, 20 minutes of knowing that Veldran reinforcements might arrive at any moment. The doors fell inward with a crash. Yunwu was the first through, his weapon ready. The command deck was enormous, designed for a species that was larger than humans. At its center stood Supreme Commander Vrethkol. Without his armor, he was even more imposing. 3 meters of pure muscle and alien biology, armed with weapons that crackled with energy. You dare enter my presence with weapons drawn? Vrethkol's voice was deep and resonant. I am Supreme Commander of the Veldran Empire. I have lived for 4 millennia. I have conquered worlds before your species learned to make fire. And you think you can defeat me? Yunwu's team spread out, taking positions around the deck. 40 Marines against 1 alien warrior. The odds seemed good. They were wrong. Vrethkol moved with speed that should not have been possible for something his size. His weapons fired, and 3 Marines died instantly. He crossed the deck in seconds, his bladed appendages cutting through armor like paper. More Marines fell. Yunwu fired, his bullet striking the Supreme's chest. They penetrated, but Vrethkol barely seemed to notice. His biology was different. What would kill a human only slowed him down. The Supreme grabbed 1 Marine and threw him across the deck. Another he cut in half with a single strike. The humans kept firing, kept attacking, but Vrethkol was a force of nature. This was what 4,000 years of evolution and combat experience created. A perfect warrior. Yunwu realized they were losing. He had known this might happen, but seeing it was different. The Supreme was going to kill them all. Then Nari activated the second phase. From outside the ship, Earth's planetary defense grid fired. Not at the dreadnought, but at the quantum field generators. The field collapsed, but not completely. It twisted, fluctuated, creating pulses of energy that washed through the ship. On the command deck, reality began to shift. Vrethkol felt it. Something was wrong. The air around him was shimmering like heat waves. His vision blurred. He tried to move toward Hyunwoo, but his body felt strange, disconnected. What have you done? The Supreme demanded. Hyunwoo did not know. None of them did. But something was happening to Vrethkol. His body began to glow with the same energy as the quantum field. He was screaming, though whether in pain or rage no one could tell. Then there was light, blinding white pure. It filled the entire command deck. Yunwu's helmet camera recorded everything, but the light was so bright that nothing could be seen clearly. When the light faded, Supreme Commander Vrethkol was gone. The command deck was empty except for the Marines. The Supreme's weapons lay on the floor. His guards were dead or unconscious, but Vrethkol himself had vanished completely. Yunwu searched frantically. Where is he? Where did he go? No one had an answer. The silence that followed was worse than any battle. Hyunwoo stood in the empty command deck, staring at the place where Supreme Commander Vrethkol had been standing moments before. His team searched every corner, checked every compartment, scanned with every sensor they had. There was nothing. No body, no trace, no evidence that the Supreme had ever been there except for his abandoned weapons. Command, this is Hyunwoo, he transmitted. The Supreme is... He's gone. Define gone, Minho's voice came back immediately. I mean, he vanished. One moment he was here fighting us. Then there was light, and then he was gone. Completely. There was a long pause before Minho responded. Secure the ship. We're sending additional teams. The Veldran fleet, watching from a distance, had seen the light. They had lost contact with their Supreme's dreadnought at the same moment. Now they were receiving transmissions from the ship, but they were human transmissions. The impossible had happened. A Veldran command ship had been captured. The fleet commanders argued among themselves. Some wanted to attack immediately, to destroy the dreadnought and all the humans aboard. Others wanted to retreat, to return to Veldran space and regroup. Without the Supreme to give orders, there was no clear authority. Then one of the junior commanders did something unprecedented. He sent a message to Minho requesting permission to surrender. "I am Fleet Commander Krelth," the message said. "I wish to speak with whoever defeated Supreme Commander Vrethkol. I wish to discuss terms." Minho was surprised, but he agreed to meet. The Veldran commander came aboard a human station under a flag of truce. He was smaller than the Supreme had been, but still impressive. He looked at the humans with what might have been respect or fear or both. "What happened to him?" Krelth asked directly. "What happened to the Supreme?" "We don't know," Minho admitted. "We were hoping you could tell us." Krelth looked troubled. "The Supreme was experimenting with technology that our scientists warned against. He wanted to become more than physical, to transcend his body. He believed it would make him truly immortal, unkillable. But the project was not complete. He was told it was too dangerous to use. He used it anyway," Minho said. "It was not a question. The Supreme believed he was invincible. He believed nothing could harm him." Krelth looked down. Perhaps he was wrong. Over the next few days, more Veldran ships requested surrender. Some fled back to their empire. A few attempted suicide attacks on Earth and were destroyed. But the invasion was over. Without their Supreme, without clear leadership, the Veldran fleet fell apart. Jinwu was brought aboard the captured dreadnought to examine the command deck. He brought every scanning device humanity possessed. What he found made no sense. "There are quantum signatures everywhere," he told Minho. "Echoes of energy that shouldn't exist in normal space. It's like reality was torn open and then sealed again." "Could the Supreme still be alive?" Minho asked. "I don't know what alive means in this context," Jinwu said carefully. "If he was trying to transcend physical form and our weapons interrupted that process, he might be trapped. Between dimensions, between states of existence. Or he might be completely gone, erased from reality. Which is more likely?" Jinwu shook his head. "I have no idea. This is beyond anything I understand." Do-Yun interviewed every Marine who had been on the command deck. Their stories were all similar. The Supreme had been winning the fight. Then the light appeared and he was gone. But when Do-Hyun asked about specific details, people's memories became unclear. Yunwoo had the clearest memory, but even he could not describe exactly what he had seen. It was like he was fading, Yunwoo said. One moment solid, then translucent, then just light. I remember his face. He looked surprised. Maybe afraid. Then nothing. "Do you think he's dead?" Do-Hyun asked. Hyunwoo was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. Sometimes at night I dream about that moment. In my dreams I can hear him screaming. But I don't remember hearing anything when it actually happened." The nightmares continued. Hyunwoo was not the only one. Several Marines who had been on the command deck reported dreams about the Supreme. They saw him in the light, trapped, trying to escape. The dreams felt too real to be just imagination. Admiral Soman took command of the captured dreadnought. It was now the most advanced ship in the human fleet, full of Veldran technology that would take years to fully understand, but it also felt wrong somehow. The crew reported strange occurrences. Equipment activating on its own, sensors detecting movement in empty corridors, brief energy spikes that matched the quantum signature from the command deck. "It's probably just glitches," Soman told her crew, but privately she was not so sure. Yuna led an expedition to visit the Veldran homeworld. The Empire was in chaos now, fractured into competing factions. Some territories had declared independence, others were fighting for control. The absence of the Supreme had created a power vacuum that was tearing the Empire apart. The new Veldran government, what was left of it, allowed Yuna access to the Imperial archives. She searched through thousands of years of records, looking for information about the Supreme's experiments. What she found was disturbing. Supreme Commander Vrethkol had been obsessed with immortality for centuries. He had survived so long already, but he wanted more. He wanted to exist beyond physical form, to become pure consciousness, to be truly eternal. The project was called Transcendence. Veldran scientists had been working on it for decades. The theory was that consciousness could be separated from the body and exist in higher dimensions. The Supreme would be able to see and affect reality without being vulnerable to physical harm. But the technology was not ready. The scientists had warned that premature activation could trap the consciousness between dimensions. The Supreme had ignored these warnings. He had brought the Transcendence device with him on his dreadnought, planning to activate it if he was ever in danger. He tried to escape, Yuna realized. When he knew he was losing the fight, he tried to transcend. But our weapons interfered with the process. Yunbi, reviewing the data, agreed. The electromagnetic disruptors we built to confuse Veldran neural networks. If he was in the middle of trying to transfer his consciousness to another dimension, and we hit him with those weapons, it would have disrupted the entire process. So where is he? Yuna asked. Yunbi did not have an answer. Back on Earth, Minho received reports of strange signals. They were coming from deep space far beyond human territory. The signals matched the quantum signature from the command deck. They appeared randomly, lasting only seconds before disappearing again. Could it be him? Nari asked. Could the Supreme be trying to communicate? I don't think so, Jinwoo said. These aren't communications. They're more like echoes, reflections of something that might have been or might still be. Minho made a decision. He ordered all data about the signals to be classified. The quantum field generators that had been used during the battle were dismantled and locked away. The command deck of the captured dreadnought was sealed. Why? Nari asked. If there's a chance the Supreme is still out there, shouldn't we investigate? No, Minho said firmly. Think about what we've accomplished. We defeated a being that was considered a god. We broke an empire that had ruled for thousands of years, and we did it because we were willing to do things that others wouldn't. But some doors, once opened, should not be walked through. You think investigating the signals would be dangerous, Nari said. I think we got lucky, Minho admitted. We won because the Supreme made mistakes. He underestimated us. He let emotion guide him. He used technology he didn't fully understand. If we go chasing after him into whatever dimension he ended up in, we might not be so lucky again. The debate continued for weeks among human leadership. Some wanted to investigate the mystery. Others agreed with Minho that some questions were better left unanswered. Eventually, a compromise was reached. The signals would be monitored but not investigated. If they ever became a threat, humanity would respond. The Veldran, meanwhile, created their own explanation for what happened. Without a body, without proof of death, they could not accept that their Supreme was gone. Some believed he was still alive, trapped somewhere, waiting to return. Others thought he had achieved transcendence and had simply moved beyond their understanding. The uncertainty was more powerful than confirmation would have been. The Veldran Empire, already fractured, fell into complete civil war. Every faction claimed they knew the truth about what happened to the Supreme. Every faction used his disappearance to justify their own grab for power. In the end, the mystery served humanity better than any clear answer would have. 6 months after the battle, Earth looked different. The captured Veldran dreadnought hung in orbit, converted into a museum and research facility. Thousands of visitors came every day to see the ship that had carried Supreme Commander Vrethkol to his final battle. They walked through the corridors where Marines had fought. They stood in the command deck where the Supreme had vanished. Minho stood at the window of his office watching the dreadnought drift silently against the stars. He had been promoted after the war. Now he coordinated Earth's diplomatic relations with dozens of alien species. The galaxy had changed, word of humanity's victory had spread quickly, and other species were eager to establish contact with the race that had defeated the Veldran Empire. We have another request, Yuna said, entering his office. She was now in charge of human intelligence operations, traveling between systems, gathering information, keeping Earth safe. The Keldan Collective wants to form an alliance. They're the 5th species this month. What do they want? Minho asked, same as the others, protection, trade agreements, technology sharing. They're all afraid that whoever filled the power vacuum left by the Veldran might come for them next. And they think we can protect them. They think we can do what we did to the Supreme, Yuna said. They think we're warriors capable of defeating gods. Minho smiled slightly. We're not warriors. We're survivors. There's a difference. In his laboratory, Jinwoo was still studying the quantum signatures. His team had made progress in understanding what happened, though many questions remained unanswered. The current theory was that the Supreme had indeed attempted transcendence, and the electromagnetic weapons had disrupted the process midway. He might be trapped between dimensions, Jinwoo explained to a group of visiting scientists, unable to fully exist in either our reality or the higher dimension he was trying to reach. Or he might have been completely destroyed, his consciousness scattered across multiple realities. We simply don't know. Do you think he could come back? One scientist asked. Jinwoo hesitated. The signals we detected suggest something is out there. But whether it's the Supreme or just echoes of what he was, we can't say. My recommendation is that we don't try to find out. The Veldran Empire had completely collapsed. What was once a unified force controlling hundreds of worlds was now dozens of small factions, each claiming legitimacy. Some wanted to continue the old ways of conquest. Others sought peaceful relations with their neighbors. A few had even asked to join human-led alliances. Soman traveled to one of the former Veldran territories to meet with their new leader. The admiral had become Earth's primary military diplomat, helping to establish peaceful relations where once there had only been war. We do not blame humanity for what happened, the Veldran leader told her. The Supreme's arrogance destroyed our empire more than any weapon. He believed he was invincible. He believed we were superior to all other species. That belief was our weakness. What will your people do now? Someone asked. Learn to live differently. Learn that strength is not the only virtue. The leader looked tired. It will take generations to change our culture. But perhaps it is necessary. Hyunwoo had retired from active service. The nightmares had never stopped completely, though they were less frequent now. He taught combat tactics to new Marines, sharing the lessons learned from fighting the Veldran. His students listened carefully when he described the battle on the command deck. We won because we didn't fight their way, Hyunwoo told them. The Veldran expected a certain kind of warfare. They expected rules, honor, fair combat. We gave them chaos instead. We fought in ways they had never experienced. That was our advantage. Do you think the Supreme is dead? One student asked. Hyunwoo was quiet for a moment, remembering the light, the fading figure, the sensation that reality itself was breaking. I think he's gone, he said finally. Whether that means dead or something else, I don't know. But I know he's not coming back. Taeyang had become famous across human space for his psychological warfare campaign. He gave lectures about how he had manipulated the Supreme into making tactical mistakes. But privately, he sometimes wondered if he had gone too far. We pushed him to use experimental technology, Taeyang confided to Minho one evening. We made him so angry that he took risks he shouldn't have. What if we created something worse? What if whatever he became is still out there? Then we'll deal with it, Minho said simply. But we won't go looking for it. That's the rule now. We monitor, we watch, but we don't investigate those signals. The decision had proven wise. 3 months after the battle, a Veldran faction had attempted to investigate the quantum signatures. Their ship had disappeared the same way the Supreme had. After that, no one else tried. Do-hyun wrote a report on the psychological impact of the Supreme's disappearance. It had become more powerful than his death would have been. A body could be mourned, could be honored, could be forgotten eventually, but a disappearance left questions. It created stories. It generated fear. The Veldran tell their children stories now, Do-hyun reported, about the Supreme who went to fight the humans and never returned. It's becoming a cautionary tale about pride and underestimating others, but it's also becoming something else. A ghost story, a warning. Other species told different versions. Some said the humans had weapons that could erase beings from existence. Others claimed Earth had access to dimension-breaking technology. A few believed the Supreme had been transformed into something terrible and was trapped, screaming in a place between worlds. None of the stories were entirely accurate, but all of them served humanity's interests. They made Earth seem more powerful than it actually was. They created a reputation that prevented conflicts before they could start. Nari, still monitoring the planetary defense systems, detected another signal. It was brief, lasting only 3 seconds, but it was the strongest one yet. For a moment, the energy signature coalesced into something almost recognizable, almost like a consciousness trying to form. Then it was gone. She reported it to Minho, who added it to the classified files and did nothing else. Someday someone is going to want answers, Nari said. Someday humanity is going to want to know for certain what happened. Maybe, Minho agreed. But not today. Today we let the mystery stand. Yunbi had dismantled the quantum field generators as ordered, but she had kept detailed records of how they worked. In a secure facility deep underground, she stored the plans and components. If humanity ever needed that technology again, it would be available. But she agreed with Minho that it should not be used casually. "We got lucky," she told her engineering team. "We built something we didn't fully understand, and it worked in ways we didn't predict." "That's not good engineering. That's gambling. We won the gamble, but we shouldn't make a habit of it." Yuna made one final trip to Veldran space. The Imperial Archives were being divided among the new governments, and she wanted to secure any remaining information about the Transcendence Project. What she found surprised her. There were other Supreme Commanders who had tried similar experiments over the centuries. All of them had failed. All of them had disappeared in similar ways. The Veldran had kept these failures secret, maintaining the image of their leaders as perfect beings. "It's happened before," Yuna reported to Minho. "The Supreme wasn't the first to try transcendence. He was just the first to do it in front of witnesses from another species. So the mystery isn't unique to us," Minho said thoughtfully. "The Veldran have been dealing with this question for generations, and they've never found answers," Yuna confirmed. "Which suggests we won't either." The story of what happened to Supreme Commander Vrethkol spread across the galaxy. It was told in 1,000 different languages, with 1,000 different details, but the core remained the same. A powerful being had gone to war against humanity. He had been confident, certain of victory, believing himself to be invincible, and he had disappeared, leaving nothing behind but questions and fear. In human space, the captured dreadnought became a symbol. Children took school trips to visit it. Veterans came to remember fallen comrades. Scientists studied its technology, but the command deck remained sealed, a reminder of mysteries that perhaps should not be solved. Minho retired 5 years after the war. He had seen humanity transform from a minor species fighting for survival into a major galactic power. Other races sought their protection, their alliance, their friendship. The galaxy had learned to respect Earth not just for its victory, but for its wisdom in knowing when not to pursue answers. On his last day in office, Minho looked at the reports of quantum signals. They still appeared occasionally, random and brief. He had never investigated them. He never would. "Some questions," he wrote in his final report, "are more valuable unanswered. The mystery of what happened to Supreme Commander Vrethkol serves humanity better than any certainty could. It reminds us of our victory without forcing us to understand forces we may not be ready to comprehend. It warns others without requiring us to maintain overwhelming military force. It is perhaps the perfect ending to a war that should never have been fought." He closed the file and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond human understanding, beyond physical reality, something that had once been called Vrethkol